Hello, everyone. We have another interesting week ahead. Last week was pretty cut and dry. We did not fall lower down to that 50K mark, which was totally possible, but we did not. We recovered and we did. We redeemed ourselves, right? I said if there was any week for crypto to redeem itself, it was this week, and that's exactly what we got. And if you look at the weekly, pretty big green candle. It didn't recover the entire previous week, but it did just enough to kind of stay, relevant. These EMAs are not bearish yet. Okay, so this is not technically bearish. I don't like how we broke, underneath this triangle, but hey, it's okay as long as we get back over it, right? So if we can reclaim that line, and you can see kind of starts back here, cuts through those two candles, cuts underneath all of these candles here, and then that red bearish candle there is what brought us lower. And so what we want to see is at least a daily close back up over them, just like we had here below. And if we get that, then we can probably see, close to the 64K mark again this week. And then maybe we get some sort of, head and shoulders, like inverted head and shoulders, where it kind of comes up here and like tests that neckline and then gives us a retest here, and then maybe we get something like that. Would be kind of nice to see, but until we get over that line, it's tough to say. This is a bearish retest, so if anybody does think we're heading lower down to this 50K mark, then this is kind of where you want to start thinking about entering those shorts, because you have all this. Let me see if I can find a box here. You got all this like choppiness going on in this zone. So if we do head a little bit higher, I don't think it's going to be like super significant. You can see we did break this trend line here too, which is another good sign of up. So I don't know about shorting it unless you want to try it somewhere around here. Keep a tight stop loss around 62.5, 63. Because if we get above that, then that's a bullish indication and a reversal. So you can also see the MACD is crossing here, but we're still pretty deep underneath. And so that means we're in for some choppiness before it can really start to get into a super bull mode. So I don't think we're there yet on the full recovery, but I think this could be showing signs of that process, especially if we can get over that trend line. If we look at total market cap, kind of the same story, right? So we held that fib cluster at the 2 trillion mark, and now we got ourselves back up here. We didn't close over that 21 EMA like I was hoping to see, which would have given us a way better indication on what's going to happen this week. So far, since we didn't, EMAs are still technically bullish. You can see that 8 EMA on total lines up perfectly with the 786, which is why I got this green arrow here. We get a move above there, and it's off to the races in the next few weeks. So this week, I want to see a close above. I want to see us get over this 2.235 trillion mark this week, and then that's going to say, hey, all right, it's time to kick things into gear and start feeling a little bit more confident in what we're holding. So this week, I want to see that happen. Total 3 is kind of the same situation, except its EMAs are cross bearish, right? So this is technically bearish now, and if we get a move up on alt, it could reject that 8 EMA and start heading lower again. In order to invalidate that bearish thesis, we need to close over the EMAs this week, and then that would say, all right, these are going to curl back up bullish, and we'll be bullish once again on altcoins, and it'll be much easier to hold those as well. Looking at stablecoin dominance, last week, if you remember, we were here when I was doing the weekly outlook, and I said if there's a lot of room back down to these EMAs that are crossing, and that's really what we got. We closed below that 5.15 mark, which is a pretty big level for USDT dominance. And now we likely get at least a retest of that 8 EMA this week, which would push crypto up just a little bit more. And, what happens from there is the big what if question, right? If we get this candle to close below the EMAs this week, then again, that's going to be another bullish indication for crypto. And it would basically just be the opposite of what's happening here. And that would close us over the 786, 8 EMA on this chart. If we look at Ethereum, it did really well this week. We closed back up over the 21 EMA. We are now inside the EMAs. That's good. generally when we are inside the EMAs, it's kind of like the no trade zone, right? Like you just want to wait it out. But I do see this pattern a lot on lower time frames, and it usually curls upward. Sometimes it doesn't. It's not 100%. But in a bull market, in a market where nobody really thinks we've topped out yet, right? This would be a great place to add again. Once again, I think that, I added around here last time when we were heading down. Sure, we did go lower. I did not add any more here, even though I kind of wanted to. I felt like if I was going to add again, I would have done it at 2,500, and that would have brought my average down significantly from the levels that we've been accumulating up here. But I was like, I'll just wait it out and see. So if we break over 33.76, I might add a little bit more just to hold on for this. This is the greed FOMO zone. Once we get into these levels, things can start really taking off into our main bull cycle, and I still think that we are going to be heading up to these levels eventually. There's nothing yet that's telling me we've topped on Bitcoin or Ethereum, so I'm not thinking that in any way, shape, or form. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter, people saying that we've possibly topped, and yes, it's definitely possible. I'm just not seeing any real indications that that's the case just yet. If these weekly EMAs start turning bearish, then yeah, that's a different story. But we don't have that, so I don't think we have anything to worry about at the moment. Ethereum did exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a weekly close above the EMAs again after last week's close below. And that's what we got, and now we're opening up above the EMAs with that nice little support right there on that 8 EMA. We could see as low as 21 again, but I think that we're going to start heading higher moving forward. The MACD and the RSI have a little bit left to go before we really get above center here and here. So I think we could start making our way into those territories, and then you will see this start heading towards overbought. By that time, we should be towards this red line. I still like Ethereum over Bitcoin moving forward, and I know I've been saying that for very, very many weeks. I think it was just like this long ago, like January, like beginning of the year. And have I been wrong? Not really. I think that we've basically just been sideways on this chart since I've been, converting my Bitcoin into Ethereum and holding Ethereum more than I'm holding Bitcoin. And patience is required. And I think that my patience will pay off eventually, and I think we're starting to see signs of that starting to move up. If we go into equities and look at the dollar, last week we got that close below the trend line. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty big deal. We haven't broke below that this entire year, and now we have. And then we headed lower even further from that point. So now we have ourselves opening up underneath the 382, and now we're retesting that to begin this week. I think that we could kind of maybe come up here and tap these EMAs again, potentially, give a little pullback in equities, maybe. But ideally, I think we're going to head back down towards this pivot, which is the main pivot on the weekly for the DXY chart. That would retest this trend line that we broke a very long time ago. And I think that this could continue making everything go up if DXY continues to fall. Equities actually closed over that wedge, and if you remember, I said you don't want to try to short wedges because it's very difficult. Every time you try to short, you're hitting a new high, new high, new high, and that can just continue on for a very long time until you are insolvent and out of patience. I think it's still best to long dips whenever we tap this weekly 8 EMA again, and that can come at any time. Could happen this week, right? Nobody knows how long we're just going to stay pushing, grinding higher. It could just continue higher until we actually tap that 1.618 and then kind of go sideways for a while. And after that, I might start, getting into longer term swing puts. But I think we're a ways away from that. Looking at NQ, kind of the same story. We did tap a line today that hasn't been touched for an entire year. So here's the last time we touched the top of the channel, and that was July of 23. And as you can see, this is July of 24. So now that we've tapped that line, maybe we do get a little bit of downside from here on equities. Not a whole lot going on in the U.S. this week in terms of events. There is a lot of stuff going on in Europe this week, and I'll post all of those events where we might expect volatility in that weekly outlook channel as well at the end of all of this. So, Dow Jones is another one to keep an eye on. So we hit this trend line, And I posted 2 charts on this, I believe, the weekly and the daily, just so you can see some levels. And I think when the Dow Jones is doing well, I think the market is healthy. And when, NASDAQ and ES are just completely outperforming the Dow Jones, and the Dow Jones still looks a little weak, I think that's an unhealthy market. And that's usually what helps signal that we're getting close to the end of a bull market, in my opinion, where things are just not balanced well. And there's just, like we've had for a long time now, all of these big tech companies pretty much bringing the market up by itself, and nothing else is really going with it. And I'm not sure if we're going to see any sort of like lower market cap run soon. I don't see it happening yet. It could, they're like altcoins in equities, so it could happen at any moment. But it is a good sign that the Dow Jones got up over this fib level again. There is divergence happening here, though. So, and again, like in crypto, when you see that divergence on a high time frame, it's usually a sign of, soon we're going to head back down because crypto is much more volatile. But when you see it in equities markets, it can carry on for a long time with that divergence. So it's best to wait for a weekly bearish cross before you start shorting, or try to nail one of these like main take profit pivots or fibs. So I do think that this is a good sign for the market overall when the Dow Jones is heading up along with everything else. I think that covers everything. Oh, looking at total 3, like against Bitcoin, which is another chart I'd like to look at. We recovered the... Did we not get a new candle here? Guess it didn't give us a new candle yet. It's 8 o'clock, so I don't know why we don't have one. I'll try refreshing that. Okay, there it is. So, well, that's not it. What happened? Where'd my chart go? Okay. That was just frozen for a while. All right, well, we closed the weekly candle back over the 0.5, which is the important part here. So we are back over the 0.5, and that doesn't... Okay, that's the right chart. So that's a good sign, and over the 8 EMA. So like altcoins against Bitcoin starting to make a little bit of a comeback here. I don't think it's going to just blast off because we are still, under center quite a bit on our helper oscillator indicators here, but it is a good start, and you can also see we got over that pivot. So that's kind of a big deal. I think as long as we stay over these 2 levels here on this chart, altcoins could start to do better again, which is great for anyone holding these things that have just been dragging them down for a while. I wouldn't say today is the day to start selling your altcoins. I would say today might be the day to start thinking about DCAing into them again, and then we'll see what happens next week. If we fall back below, okay, cool, we'll just get out maybe small losses. But as long as we continue to hold this really important level, then maybe we don't come down and see this golden pocket. Hard to say. All right, so I think that covers all the majors and everything I wanted to go over. If anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to drop those in the chat now. And if you're not here and able to join the live stream, you can always drop that into the chart requests channel in the Discord, and I will get to them as soon as I can. I think there's a couple there now that I got to get to. But let's see who's typing. We got Sui and Sol. All right, well, I'm already on Sol, so I'll start with that one. And there's a really important level at 151 for Sol. We did not close the daily over that pivot, which is what I was watching for. We are starting out above it, but you can see the daily is crossed bullish now. The one thing I hate about Sol right now is that it tried to cross bullish here and then freaking tanked. So I'm wondering if maybe we tap that 151 level, which is important, and tank again. I don't know. We aren't quite over center here yet, and we aren't quite over center with both lines here yet either. So there is still that potential that they could just pull the rug on this again. Until we really get over that white line again, which is the main uptrend. So you break down an uptrend, and then if you can reclaim that uptrend, then that's really bullish. So if we can get back up over that, I would feel a lot more confident about Sol. And right now it's just chopping in a huge 15% range, which makes it really hard to trade. my bot's having a hard time right now with that trade because it went short, and you can't win them all, but and I can't blame it for that short either, because it shorted on a retest after this really bearish candle. Right, came back up, shorted that, and then now it's just grinding higher little by little. So we'll see if that ends up becoming a loss or not. And if it is, then we'll just move on to the next trade. For now, we're over pivot, but that 151 level is important. Oh, yeah, it just abandoned the short right there in front of your eyes. So that's going to be a loss, and we'll see what happens next. Now, SUI. So I like candles that will close over EMAs like that, but it's not yet bullish on the daily. You can see that S1 level is a nice support, and that's kind of what I would use as my stop loss if you're going to try to long this. It looks like it did break the downtrend, at least this minor one. And let's see what the major one is. Right about there. So I would say you can probably take it to that trend line. And if you guys don't know that when you draw trend lines, you can actually use the magnet here, right? So I can make sure I pinpoint the top and then pinpoint the next major level. And then what I'll do is I'll come in here and hit extend right line. And that gives me a perfect line at the major extremes. And then I can draw let's say a fib level the same way. So I can pin to that top and then pin to that bottom. And now that I've done this on the higher time frames, I can move into the lower time frames to try to do some day trading, right? And then I can throw my pivots on, which also give me, really good levels of confluence. And I would say that this would be a great little scalp zone that you could take to that pivot there. And if we get above that, okay, well now we can take it to the line. If we get above that, we likely get a retest back down. If we do, we take a long on top of that pivot and then head for the next one, and the next take profit level at the 618. And so you can see something along the lines of, a move up here, and then a rejection, and then a move above to the line, and then support form, and then get up over, and then support form again, and then sideways, and then make a shot up. Something along those lines. You're always going to get some sort of either distribution or accumulation happening around these major levels. And you can see that happening here as well. So here you go. Here looks like a distribution, obviously, because it fell. But then when you get it in reverse, it's more of a little mini accumulation happening, and then it goes up higher. And so you can find these just by seeing the price action when they start going sideways. And if you don't end up getting above your level, then it's going to fall. If you can get up on top of your level, then it's going to rise. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's see. We got Pendle. Pendle. There she is. All right, let's zoom out. All right. So this is another great example of those EMAs. So you see they're not bearish yet. And in altcoins, we can go extremely below them and recover all the way back up, and they won't cross bearish. And so this is kind of one of those patterns that I see a lot where they don't, and then we end up recovering and getting back above. I don't know where this trend line came from. Let me check it out. So it's kind of just pretty random. Let's see, right there. Okay, so that's kind of useless. I would go with the yellow one. So I would say we're probably going to get a retest of that yellow trend line at some point. And then if we don't get over this little S2 right here, then we'll probably come back down and hit the 8 EMA, and then the idea is that these are curling bullish, and we'll start kind of heading higher. I don't see any real bullish divergence. MACD crossing is good. I don't know if it's just gonna fly, being this under center here still. It's probably got some work to do, but I do think that we'll test that trend line again around that S1 470 to 485 ish, And you can see that level here if you just kind of plot a line at all those candle bodies. 493, maybe as high as we can see before a bit of a rejection. And then if we get over that 493 mark, then okay, we've broken back up into the trend, and that's really bullish, and you can take that to the green line around the $6 mark, it looks like. Whenever you break down a trend and then reclaim it, it's very bullish. Or whenever you break it the opposite way, it's bearish, right? So whenever you see a pattern that's happening, or a triangle or anything of those sorts, and you break down below it or break above it, whenever you see it come back into the pattern, whichever way it's coming back in, you want to take that in that direction for a swing. It's typically one of the best swing indications. And people are typically afraid at that point, right? Because we had so much downside, and then it reclaims, and then everyone tries to short all around that retest. And then once it does break back over, they add to their shorts, because now they're underwater, and then that's when it just freaking blasts off and tears them apart. And so you want to try to go with that direction rather than trying to fight it. You can take the short at the retest, but you want to keep your stops tight. And if it hits your stop, don't keep trying to like catch up. Just take the loss and flip the other way. That's the only way to really do it. Tesla. I love my Tesla. I love my pen too. What's it doing way up there right now? Why did it turn red? That was green. It's not even open. TradingView's having a lot of like glitches lately. Tesla. Ooh. So I guess it's kind of like kind of do or die day this week, because it's right at the main downtrend. It did break over it. Am I on that mark? Yep, I am. So we closed the week over it and then ended under it and then came back up for a retest, leaving this massive, like, pretty neutral doji candle. So I think this might give us a little bit of a pullback this week, and then it's up to the EMAs to continue pushing this up higher. But what you can notice here is that this is the first time in a while we've had bullish EMAs on the weekly. So don't underestimate that. I would not try to short it unless you're just trying to scalp it back to the EMAs. But even then, it's dangerous. So we know Tesla can move once it starts moving. I'm still holding mine. If you were paying attention to the long-term investments channel, we bought at that mark, and we bought at this mark right here quite a while ago, years ago, it looks like now. Wait, no, that wasn't it. Was that it? I thought we bought at like 108. Oh, yeah, we did. Okay, I bought at 108. It was like right here. It's like 108, 112. So we got really nice entries on this for the long term. I'm just going to hold on. I think Tesla's going to be amazing in the next 10 years. So I have no reason to sell that. And I think patience is definitely going to pay off with this one. But we are at the trend line. You know, this is a major threshold. It could be done accumulating and we head higher, or we could reject and have to wait longer. But eventually I do think that this will break that and go up pretty high. XRP and Matic. XRP. It's probably my least favorite crypto of all time. So it's pretty much just a nothing burger all the time. But I guess that was a pretty good week. That's a bullish engulfing. So it's a good start. It's just every time XRP has one of those weeks, then it just does this afterwards. Like, there's never any continuation. The weekly EMAs aren't bullish yet, so I wouldn't personally like jump the gun until they do. And really, until you break the 60-cent barrier that it's had trouble with for a really long time, I don't know if I would mess with it personally. It might have its day eventually, though, you know. I'm sure it will one day. And when it does, if you've been holding this thing for years, just take your money and just, like, find something else. I don't know. Matic. Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. This whole thing looks like a giant distribution now. So until we get back up over, you know, all of these trend lines, I'm basically a bag holder Personally, I'm not adding any more to it. I do still think Matic is the better layer 1, but that's just because I don't really use it for any DeFi related purposes. So I use Matic whenever I do anything with USDC or USDT. I use Polygon Network, but I'm just moving things around. I'm not actually utilizing the network for anything specific. HBAR. So it's not great that we got back down under that 0.5 again, and I don't know why these fibs are so small, these values. So I can change that real quick. Go bigger. Okay. If we can reclaim that pivot 0.5 at 0.073, 0.074, at least close a daily candle over it, that'd be great. We are starting to point upwards again. Saw that S2 support, still very under center. I think altcoins in general have a long way to go, but they could start to do better. I think this trend is broken, so that's like the first good sign. Let's see. Nope, not quite. If you put it there, it has, and kind of ignore that, but you know, ideally you want to break that. So even if you do get over that 0.5, you still need to break the main trend, and then maybe we can talk about something bullish. But for now, weeklies are bearish, and we're just kind of retesting things as we head down. Like ADA, yeah, ADA is another one. Just why? Like, have they done anything in years? I don't even know if I've seen a network like to use, but Kaspa. So there's a lot of lines here. I mean, overall, it's still making higher highs and higher lows. So, yeah, this is definitely one to have if this market is not done yet. Like, I would definitely pick this one over XRP and ADA. And you'd have a much better chance at survival. Let's look at the daily. So if we can get back over 0.175, this could be good. And notice that these EMAs never actually cross bearish. It's a lot of tomfoolery going on in here, and you can easily get wiped out on these altcoins if you're leverage trading them. But if you're still just a hodler, then there's no reason to really sell yet. The whole thing's very divergent, though. Like, this is clearly pointed higher, and this is clearly trending down every time it does that. But that doesn't mean it can't continue. This is looking like a pretty bullish structure, like that I see in crypto. I remember Luna had a structure similar to this before it crashed, and it went, it kept doing this higher and higher over a pretty long length of time. And eventually this will probably, crash as well, but it's looking distributed-y, kind of. But it doesn't mean it can't keep making new highs until it finally does that. I think it's one of the stronger altcoins, and I don't see any reason to sell it at this moment in time until, maybe we break down underneath 15 cents again. Then it might be time to consider getting out. Arrow. I know I have that one in here. Yep. So, it's a nice weekly reversal type candle here that we had last week. Bullish engulfing. EMAs are just now starting to come through on the weekly because it's such a new asset. So typically you'll want to use the daily on something like that. And you can see their EMAs are bullish or starting to cross bullish. So here is a good entry to potentially swing this long, and just understand that you could get like a retest of these along with a retest of the EMAs, so that they're kind of all in the same little spot here, right around the 70 to 68 cent mark. But it is definitely turning bullish again, and it's a nice reversal looking pattern. So this is something I would consider attempting, honestly. I think it's one of the bigger movers, and it's fun to trade. So I hope that helps. All right, if there are no more questions or chart requests, we are going to end this weekly outlook. I hope I have helped you, and I hope you have a great week. See you later.